This video is going to focus on place value patterns. So remember in the last video I said that patterns are really, really important with math, no matter what type of math we're doing. And so looking at place value is another place where we can see patterns. So this year you're probably going to get to use these things that are called secret code cards. And what you'll notice is they're all different sizes, and on the front of the card, it'll say what the number is, and then it's spaced apart. And then on the back, we can actually see that it's been broken down into our place value quick drawings. And so you can see right here that they have the squares, but they actually put the lines on the inside. So they did a little extra for us, which is nice to see. And then here we can see that they did 8 10 sticks. And notice how they did 5, and then they made a space, and they did 3 more. And there's no ones right here because the ones is its own card, and then they did 5 ones and 1. And when we take these cards and we put them together, we can see that a 400 and an 80 and a 6, when we put it together, equals the number 486. So that will come into play when we're talking about this. On one of your workbook pages, you're going to be asked to look at some patterns and see what you notice about this chart. So let's look at that chart together, and I want you to write down in your workbook. I'll find out what page it is, let you know when you have it. What are the patterns that we notice? So first we can see that we go from ones to tens to hundreds to thousands. And see right here, it's getting 10 times greater. So what it's saying is to get from ones to tens, that number is getting 10 times greater, right? 1 times 10 equals 10. And then to get from here, 10 times 10 times 10, 10 times greater, equals 100. And this one also is getting 10 times greater, right? So as we continue going to the left, all the numbers are getting bigger. If we had another spot over here, which would be our 10,000s, we would know that that number is going to get 10 times greater also. So that's one of the patterns that we can notice, is from each place value to the next, as we're going to the left, the place value patterns, they're getting 10 times greater. Now this is a little tricky because we haven't learned decimals or fractions or anything, and so it might look confusing, like, oh, I don't know how to do this. But all we're doing is looking at the numbers and trying to focus on patterns. So look right here, I have 1 and then a dot. And then when I go to the next one that I already know is getting bigger, I have 1 and a 0 and a dot. And then over here, I can see 1 and 2 zeros. So from each of these, I can see that it looks like I'm adding another 0. So that's an important part. Whenever we're going by 10 times, we're adding a 0 into our answer, right? So if I went from the ones over here all the way to the hundreds, I would be adding 1 2 zeros, which is going to get me 100. The same thing here with fractions. I'm starting with 1 over 1, and then it goes to 10 over 1, 100 over 1, 1,000 over 1. So if I had to guess what was over here based on my patterns, I would say I'm just going to add 1, 2, 3. I'm going to add another 0 over 1. So it would be 10,000 over 1. And that pattern is going to continue. Same thing over here if I have money. $1 bill, a $10 bill, a $100 bill, a $1,000 bill, and then it would go to 10,000. So these are really important patterns to notice. Even though we haven't learned decimals, we haven't learned fractions, we haven't talked about money, you can still understand all of these patterns. So the other part of this lesson, Unit 2, is going to be talking about how we write different numbers in different forms. So there are 3 types of forms. If I was going to ask you to write the number 8,562 in standard form, well, standard is just the regular way. It's standard, it's nothing special. So I'm going to say 8,562. Now, if I'm asking you to write it in word form, it's really important that we're looking at the pattern. Form just means the way I'm going to do it. Standard just a regular way, right? Form's the way I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it using words. So for word form, I would write, let's see if I can fit it here, 8,000, right? Exactly how I said it when I was talking over here, that's how I'm going to write it down. 8,000, and then I took a little breath, so I'm going to put a comma right there. 562. Is it going to fit? Yeah. Okay. So word form is just writing out the number in the words. Now, expanded form, you've probably learned, and that's where these secret code cards are going to give us a little reminder of what that is. So think about when you put a marshmallow in the microwave, we know that it expands, right? When you eat too much at Thanksgiving, your clothes have to expand so you can fit in them. So it's stretching something out. So this is the same thing that we're doing with expanded form, is we're taking this number and we're expanding it. We're breaking it apart into all of its parts, the ones, tens, and hundreds. So if I was going to take this big number, 8,562, and expand it, I'm going to write it like this first and show you how I would do it. So I'm going to take this number and I'm going to say this 8 right here, it doesn't stand for 8, right? It actually stands for, because it's in the thousands place, it means that I have 8 thousands. And 8 thousands is the same as 8,000. Now I'm going to add a plus because I'm adding all these parts together. The 5 right here, it doesn't stand for 5. I can't just write a 5. But the 5 is in the hundreds place. So I have 5 hundreds, which means that I have 500, okay? If someone gave me 5 $100 bills, I would have $500. The next one right here, this is my tens place. If someone gave me 6 $10 bills, I would have $60. So 6 tens is going to give me 60. And 2 is in the ones place. And there's nothing that I have to do there. I'm just going to break that up. The really important part when you're talking about expanded form is remembering to add these addition symbols. If you just write all of the numbers next to each other, that just looks like a big mess, right? That doesn't make any sense. But if we double check our work and I were to add all of these up again, I could see that 8,000 plus 500 plus 60 plus 2, that's going to give me 8,562. Okay, so your work for today is going to be practicing looking at the patterns and taking different numbers and writing them in either standard form, word form, or expanded form.